We're learning more about the Michigan man who went on this deadly rampage at a church of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township. This church is located 60 miles northwest of Detroit. Multiple people who knew the suspect, he was a former Marine named Thomas Jacob Sanford, and they say he had major emotional problems with the Mormon church. He talked about it a lot. Police say that Sanford killed 4 people and wounded 8 others after ramming his truck, I should say, into the church building on Sunday. The 40-year-old then set fire to the church and destroyed the building. He was eventually shot and killed by the police. Now, the victims in this case range in age from just 6 years old to 78 years old.
Such a tragedy. And for the latest, we are joined this morning by Detroit Free Press criminal justice reporter Andrea May Sahouri. Andrea, thanks for joining us here on Connecting America. Share with us what more perhaps you've learned about the shooter.
Yeah, definitely been a crazy ride the past few days. Speaking to people that went to high school with him in Goodrich, which is, not far from Grand Blanc. Back then I'm hearing he was very polite, funny guy. But did hear that when he came back from the Army, something was a little off. He had struggled with some drug addiction, moved out west for a bit, came back. And, I had spoken to someone, a political candidate in nearby Burton, Michigan, which is also near Grand Blanc, Goodrich, Flint area. And he had been canvassing a week before and stopped at this man's house. And he had been talking to him. He was really engaging. He was nice, polite, and then ended up getting in this tirade by the end of the conversation about the LDS church, Latter-day Saints church, Mormonism, asking this political candidate about what his thoughts on it, and then eventually kind of saying that Mormonism, Mormons are the Antichrist, which is a pretty alarming statement. We still don't know. FBI is still not giving out a motive. They do say this is a targeted attack, but they're still working a motive. And really, there's still limited information we have on that front from the FBI, which is now leading the investigation.
Yeah, Andrew, it's hard, as you point out, to kind of disentangle his emotional issues from whatever he was claiming to be angered about with the Mormon church. It sounds like from your reporting and from what we've read that he was in this relationship in Utah. It ended badly, but 10 years later, he was still talking about it and still struggling with it and railing against it. But he had gotten married, and apparently he also had a child that he was caring for with a rare genetic disorder. Then there was his military service. So it just sounds like there were some deep-seated emotional issues. Let's talk about the victims here. So do you know if there are still people who are hospitalized this morning?
Yeah, I believe so. I do want to say one more thing though about when we talk about the suspect, I do still think it's important. The governor had mentioned we should lower the rhetoric, or cool the temperature on rhetoric, and be mindful of social media and not come to conclusions. There's still a lot we don't know, and so I definitely don't want to play a part in spreading, engaging in any rumors. Obviously, this is just what we have been reporting. But I just wanted to mention that before we go on. But yes, the victims, all of them are now accounted for, which is good, in this tragedy, good news. We were fearing that there would be more. There's one victim in critical condition still as of yesterday afternoon. And, the total, including the suspect, 5 people deceased.
Andrea, these shootings are shattering. How is the community responding from neighbors, local churches, community leaders?
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is not the first mass shooting I've had to cover. But, in any shooting, especially in these small towns, really people just step up. From the first day, local restaurants were donating food to first responders. There's now this fund, this Grand Blanc Strong Fund set up by local businesses to help support victims and their families and the community. And, the schools closed, the day after the shooting. And it's just, just really nice to see. I'm actually from this area, so this is a surreal experience, but just seeing again everyone step up to the plate has been empowering as well.
Andrea May Sahouri with the Detroit Free Press. We appreciate you joining us, and makes a good point. It is still fairly early in the investigation. We know investigators need to do their job to drill down to what the motive may have been, if we'll ever really know what the motive was, because important to point out the shooter is deceased as well, killed by police in a shootout.
Well, that's the point, Jim. I mean, I find I was a crime reporter in a past life for many,
Yeah.
many years. And I'll tell you, it's never satisfying. Whatever the motive is, even when the motive comes out, it's never satisfying because there's still no excuse for ever resorting to this level of violence. And so, you can find out bits and pieces about what any suspect or murderer was thinking. But at the end of the day, it does generally 99% reflect some deep emotional situation, because resorting to killing strangers in a church, it just has to be an emotional defect.
Yeah, we know his own father apologized to a reporter for his son's actions, and said, when asked about, how was his behavior or what might have led to this, he said, the important thing is this has happened, and we have to deal with the aftermath.